Good morning. Welcome to our service from the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House in Springfield, Vermont. My name is Dick Andrews. I am one of the trustees. We welcome those of you in the meeting house, as well as those of you surfing the electronics of Zoom. We are a multifaceted community, and we're glad you are with us this morning. We are a covenantal community in which we have promised to care for and to learn from each other. Together, we seek to deepen and broaden our faith and understanding. Your joining us today will enrich our covenant and our community. If you are a guest, we invite you to simply enjoy being with us. At the end of the service, there will be a time for announcements and an opportunity for guests to introduce themselves if they wish. Everyone is welcome to join us after the service for our coffee hour discussion time, either in person or online. Thank you again for joining us.
Our opening words today are by Deepak Chopra. Language creates reality. Words have power. Speak always to create joy.
Please join us in singing Dona Nobis Pacem, which should be on the wall. There they are.
Dona nobis pacem, pacem. Dona nobis pacem. Dona nobis pacis, pacem. Dona nobis
Well, as I said a few minutes ago, my name is Dick Andrews. And I'm here to say, among other things, that I've heard in previous years, a fair number of people say they started attending services and participating in other activities here because they felt a sense of home-like welcome when they arrived that they hadn't felt elsewhere. That's not why I've stayed around, though I did experience that welcoming vibe. I think the difference between me and quite a few others is that although I'm not what you might call a cradle UU, my family joined a Unitarian church in Cleveland, Ohio, when we moved there in 1916 and I was 14 years old. It became a Unitarian church when the merger between, a UU church, when the merger between the Unitarians and the Universalists took place a few years later. Since then, I have felt at home, even if only briefly, at many UU or Unitarian churches, both in this country and abroad. So in that sense, this congregation doesn't feel unusual to me. Essentially, all UU churches welcome those who need or want a religious home that can flex a bit to fit them. I've lived in Springfield for 3 different periods, starting in 1953. When I arrived in town for the 3rd time in 2003, naturally, I eventually came here. Comics like to say that we UUs are notoriously bad at singing hymns because we have to read ahead to see whether we agree with what's coming in the next line or two. In a similar spirit, when I first visited the meeting house, I was a little wary of the mention of love in the first line of the affirmation. It seemed like maybe it promised too much. Not only that, I might not be able to live up to it. And it sounded a little bit new agey, hard to take seriously, perhaps. Then I recalled that the definition of love that I developed in my late teens and early 20s, you know, the time of age, time of life when young folks are wrestling with questions and definitions like that. Since those years, I've considered love to mean a commitment to care for. And that's what keeps me here, a group of people committed to care for each other as well as they can. But I'd still be happier if the affirmation said care instead of love.
Thanks, Dick. And now, if you would, recite with me the affirmation again, which is up on the wall. Why are we here? Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve the needs of all beings, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with the source of our being. And now we will have the offering and for the ongoing work of this church and for the family center, food items and toiletries for the food center. Thank you.
We have several readings that we will share with you now. The first is the Oxford Dictionary definition of a word, a single, distinct, meaningful element of speech or writing, used with others or sometimes alone to form a sentence, and typically shown with a space on either side when written or printed.
A word is dead when it is said. Some say, I say, it just begins to live that day. Emily Dickinson.
Words create worlds. That's Pierre Duplessis.
Words have a magical power. They can either bring the greatest happiness or the deepest despair. Sigmund Freud.
Kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless. Mother Teresa.
Your words carry amazing power. So when you speak, make sure you uplift someone and never put them down. Anonymous.
All the words that I utter and all the words that I write must spread out their wings untiring and never rest in their flight till they come where your sad, sad heart is and sing to you in the night, beyond where the waters are moving, storm darkened or starry night. William Butler Yeats.
Bare bones. Hope is not always soft and lovely. She is not always cascading rivers and sunlit skies dancing. Hope knows there is work to be done. There are roads to be traveled, turns to be made. She is bare bones and deep waters. She is weary and weak. She is barely a glimmer. She shakes when she speaks. This is where hope lives. Smothered in sweat, full of war, and on the verge of crumbling into the sea, yet there she is, quietly breathing. I think it's pronounced Yuli, K.
On the subject of hope, the choir chose the word hope as our word to present today. And we have a lovely poem by Emily Dickinson, which is put to music. But I want to say a few words before we start that. And the first is that I have been out of commission for 18 days now. And I want to give a big round of applause and love to Anne Darling, who recorded our demos for this piece. The way the virtual choir works is that usually I record all the parts and then the singers record and sing along with me and then sing it back to me. And I was unable to do that. And Anne very bravely, courageously took on that task for us and recorded all of the parts. And that's how we have this today. The second thing that I want to mention is that as I was sitting in my house for the past 18 days, thinking about Emily Dickinson, who wrote the lyrics to this piece of music, Hope is the Thing with Feathers. And I thought about her a lot because she was a recluse in her adult years. She never ever left her bedroom, and I could relate. And so you'll see images of windows in this piece, along with the things with feathers. And Emily has a different take on hope than the poem that we just read. But anyway, you'll see images of windows, and that is a nod to Emily and looking out the window and having hope.
Oh, gosh. That was fabulous, guys. Even, I mean, I'm touting my own horn, but I don't know, that was beautiful. And Jelaine, I don't know how you did that. Oh, gosh. Thank you so much, choir. Thank you so much. And now I think we're going to hear from Chrissy first. Is that right? Yes? You're on. Go for it, honey.
You're muted, I think. Actually, she's not muted.
Your mic isn't working.
Yeah.
We all know what that means.
No.
Oh,
Oh, darn.
well,
Let's have the next person go while Christy works on her sound. We
yeah.
were able to hear her earlier.
Let us know, Chrissy, when you come back.
Okay, so I'll jump into talking about willingness.
Great.
Okay. Willingness moves creation. So I was working in the garden recently, as many of us are, I'm sure, and it reminded me how willing certain species of plants are to return to me each spring. The grapevines are happy to wrap themselves around any and all vegetation, structures, and even telephone wires. The vines are also happy to mingle with wild roses, shrubbery, and lilac trees. The vines and I have come to a soft understanding. I will honor their beauty and gifts with careful trimming and weaving a few times a year. And they will not strangle my tomato plants. So goes this dance of sharing space. I am willing to hold the garden beings with respect, and they willingly bring their bounty. And here's a quote from Wayne Dyer. Love is the ability and willingness to allow those you care for to be what they choose for themselves, without any insistence that they satisfy you. So, what are the qualities that attract you to the people that you choose to be in company with? That's a question that came up for me recently. I've come to a time in my life when I have the pleasure to indulge in daily contemplations. I might find myself revisited by questions from other decades of my life. And now I can enjoy traveling wherever my imagination leads. Willingness. So a recent conversation with my spouse revealed that I am quite attracted to the quality of willingness in my circle of friends and my workmates and my companions. Willingness can be gentle. When I think about how I spend my days, I am surrounded by willingness, and this makes for a very satisfying experience. My dear kitty is willing to wait warmly and quietly nestled into my knees or my feet until I awake and arise. And if I should happen to sleep past sunrise, she moves up a bit and a bit, closer and closer to my shoulder, where she may eventually perch until I am willing to acknowledge her legitimate needs for attention and food. My dear husband and housemate is even more willing to honor my sleep and wake modes and my need for a silent entrance into the morning routines. When we were first married, I would often be greeted by a litany of questions that had percolated for him during the night. I am not easily drawn out of my dream state. I like the in-between realms, and once I am fully awake, then I am willing. Willingness can be fierce. It seems to me willingness is more than a quality. I believe it is a virtue. When I experience this quality in a workmate or loved one, I know that we can do a lot together. Sometimes we can only do so much by ourselves, no matter how determined we are. If your partner or friend is willing to support your vision, it's like magic. Willingness makes magic. And here's another quote. This is Alanis Morissette. Willingness to just go for it, whether it is a conversation, a spontaneous trip, or trying new things that are scary. It is a really attractive quality. So she agrees with me, or I agree with her, not sure which. Willingness is an attractive quality. Many of you know that I am part of the Worship and Arts Committee. We work together as a team, asking questions, following people and topics of interest that support and portray our inherent values and alight our passions for love and life. Each member of our team, and you've seen them today, reading the quotes, each member of our team, they step up, and they step up in service to this community. And there are others who come to us, sometimes for a singular service that they are offering and willing to share their knowledge or their gifts. Some come more frequently. They're willing to share their voice, their vision, their passion with each other, with this community, and the larger spheres. We, as a team and as a community, are willing to help manifest dreams. That is this community's strength. Its willingness to work together for common cause. So remember, willingness makes magic. Thank you very much. Let's see if Chrissy has her mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay! Good morning, everyone. I had to take my earbuds off, and I'm going to let you know that right outside my window right now on Main Street in St. Albans is the huge Maple Festival. So you might hear the stage. I've got every kind of fair food right in front of my house. So I smell like popcorn and the bloomin' onion all the time. So I chose the word temperance, and I cannot find it, but it's a card that I got from, this is the Complete Idiot's Guide to Tarot. So I'm not being very fancy here, but this is the picture of temperance. And that being is the Archangel Michael, and he's actually standing on land. with one foot and water with the other. And he is pouring the water of life in between a silver cup and a gold cup. Now, for those of you who are familiar with tarot cards, the major arcana has 21 cards, and it represents the soul's journey to actualization. And Temperance is the 14th card. And so that gets you about 2/3 of the way on your spiritual journey. It's also a group of cards in the middle that represent kind of midlife crisis as part of the growth process. I found that card and I keep it posted up above my computer in my kitchen so that I can see it, and it reminds me all the time. The key words for Temperance is patience, adaptation, self-discipline, and cooperation. And I'm just going to read a little bit from here because it says it way much better than I can. Temperance suggests the need to adapt and cooperate with conditions rather than give them up. The 2 cups in Michael's hands, moving the water back and forth again and again, show that he needs to keep the water in the cups and be patient with the process. Patience is a virtue, both in this card and in life. When the Temperance card appears upright, it indicates self-control or a good sense of balance with people management. And in the Temperance card, Michael, one of the archangels, is pouring the essence of life from a silver cup to a golden one. Symbolically, the water flows from the subconscious to the conscious, from the unseen to the seen, and back again. The archangel is coordinating the flow of the past to the present and into the future. The square on the angel's breast is Foursquare reality, Earth, and you'll see it's a white square right here on his chest. So that is Foursquare reality, Earth, and the triangle with the square is that of spirit manifest on Earth. Michael is well balanced with 1 foot on the water and 1 foot on land. Water, emotions, and earth, logic, are perfectly balanced in this card. So the way that this helps me is that when the card appears in the reading, its lesson is to have patience with others and work with and not against them, and to go with the flow. And be in harmony with others. And I've had this card over my desk for a few years now, and I cannot tell you how lovely it is to have that little reminder. So when I start to get spun up or triggered or frustrated, I can look at the Temperance card and model my behavior on that suggestion. And by doing so with Temperance, I'm much happier. I'm content with my circumstances. I'm less apt to get overwrought with emotions. Of course, I'm human and that does happen. But it's a lovely way to think of the Archangel Michael and the flow of water, balance, yin and yang. And so the symbol of yin and yang is another cultural representative of that concept. And it's what I've adopted as my guidepost to how I interact in the earth and interact with other people. And it gives me patience when I'm, engaged in a conversation with someone and they're going off on a subject in a way that I completely disagree with, but I don't need to say that. I just need to respectfully listen to what their point of view is unless they ask me. So what do you think, Christine? And Temperance has a gentleness and an acceptance of where another person is without wanting to change them, change their mind, or without making them wrong. And for me, I see temperance as a way for us all to bridge each other in a way that's gentle and accepting, and so that each one of us is heard. And that's why temperance is one of my favorite words these days. Thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you, Chrissy. I guess it's up to me. Oh, no, Mr. Dick,
Am I the last one?
yes, yes, thank you.
Well, I'm going to go off the script a little bit here in more ways than one. Rather than pondering a word we all know or considering such a word, I'm going to consider a situation in which we don't have a word it would be handy to have. The concept for which I think we need a word we don't have is mud season. We get by with this term, but come on, it's pretty weak stuff for what it purports to denote, yes? But Russians have the word we need. Russians know from mud. Mud doesn't fool around in Russia. In a big way, it helped defeat Napoleon. Didn't do the Germans any good in World War II either. Even today, many Russian roads are just plain dirt, no gravel at all. When the thaw comes after a hard winter, those so-called roads are bottomless, which reminds me of a time when Stephanie and I had a young fellow as a exchange student when we lived in Andover, probably 25 years ago. And Alexei Popov was from Arkhangelsk, and he was 15 years old. And he had to participate in a great many things in this country that he'd never done at home, including washing dishes. Because in his family, in Russia generally, I guess boys don't wash dishes. But that was my job, and so I had drafted him for drying the dishes. And one night when we were doing the supper dishes, I asked him what his family thought of Stalin. And Volodya said, "They say he paved the roads." And for just a moment, I was open-mouthed, and then I said, "Volodya, in Russia, there are no roads," which I couldn't help laughing, but poor kid. Anyway, he had to adjust to a lot. But also, when I lived in Andover, I took Russian language at Green Mountain High School. And Russians weren't doing the despicable things then that they are now, so it was more of an okay thing to do. After that, I traveled in Russia several times, totaling between 3 or 4 months in the country. And I was lucky. I missed mud season, but I did learn the word. And the word is Rasputitsa. Now that's a word that gets to the nub of the situation. In Andover, we could reach a paved road from our house by 3 different routes. Usually, one would stay frozen while the other 2 thawed, or one would finally be dry while the other 2 were deep in mud, but not always. And then Rasputitsa. And one year there, mud season was so bad that the road grader got stuck to its axles, despite the fact that the wheels are chest high on that machine. So for the road crew, Rasputitsa. This weekend, an annual gravel road bicycle race called the Rasputitsa is taking place in northern Vermont. So maybe eventually the word will enter into general use around here. But you have the word now. When your car is stuck to the door sills next spring, remember Rasputitsa.
Thank you.
Gotta say, closed caption did not catch that one.
I bet not.
Just totally skipped it. Didn't even try.
So now what we'd like to do is to invite you to just call out if you have a word that has meaning for you. Stay in your seat, don't bother coming up here, and just call it out. Any word that has meaning for you. And up on Zoom, in our Zoom land. Hi, Steffi and Thomas.
Thomas, that's my word.
There you go.
Ducky.
Ducky? Ducky, yeah, with all the rain.
Harmony.
Music.
Harmony?
Harmony.
Harmony, beautiful.
Kind of like those two words that go together and some call them.
What's that?
Luscious and puddle lovely.
Yeah.
What was that?
Mud luscious and puddle lovely.
Mud luscious, and spell that other one?
Puddleovely.
Pud lovely, pud lovely.
Lovely.
Okay, very good.
It's in a poem somewhere.
Uh-huh. Okay. Sounds like Lewis Carroll almost. Anybody else?
I'll say, there are two words that get said here in France quite a lot. And
Okay.
you may have heard of bonjour, which is good day, but that's when you greet someone. When you leave their presence, you say bonne journée. Bonne journée. Everyone does it to everyone else. Have a good day. Bonne journée.
Bonne journée.
It's quite lovely.
Uh-huh. Is that sort of like aloha in Hawaiian? Because you say aloha when you greet and also when you leave, right?
Well, there's a difference between bonjour and bonne journée.
Okay.
But anyway, it's everyone greets everyone. You walk down the street and they say bonjour.
Okay.
You walk into a store and everyone says bonjour. You know, it's lovely to be greeted and to greet others.
Yeah. Nice.
In Spanish, and when I was in Guatemala, we would be walking through the mountains, and every person that came toward us would say, "Que le vaya bien." The same thing. "Que le
Same.
vaya bien. Que le vaya bien." When they left the end,
Uh-huh.
we would reciprocate to them.
Uh-huh. Did the people on Zoom hear that? Same thing in Guatemala.
Que le vaya bien.
Que le vaya bien. Same idea. And so you'd hear it one after the other, people greeting each other. Nice.
In Japanese, it's konnichiwa,
Konnichiwa.
which is this day, just explaining and welcoming this day.
Welcoming this day. Yeah, nice. There's probably many phrases all over the world like that. Yeah, cool. Anybody else? That it? Okay. Oh, now we're going to have a hymn that is number 296 in our hymnal. Excuse me. Oh, ye who taste that love is sweet. And that is the words are written by Christina Rossetti, another famous female writer. And we just, because we mentioned Emily Dickinson, we also wanted to mention Christina Rossetti. Did I say enough? Okay.
Our closing words are from Gandhi. Prayer is not asking. It is the longing of the soul. It's daily admission of one's weakness. It is better in prayer to have a heart without words than words without a heart. Thank you, Gandhi.